Alright, let's do a little bit more of this, and let's see how it goes. Whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Can't really go to Bitcoin until you can legalize transactions in Bitcoin. So this is the thing. At one point, you had to have cash, right? When you were younger, you might have remembered, they came out with the Visa, the Charge It, and they had this slogan, just say charge it. And you could swipe your card over there and you didn't have to bring cash with you.
I'm waiting on that one. Guess I'll reload 2247. Remember that number. So it might come back on its own.
We all remember that.
There it is.
At one point, that didn't exist. And yeah, it is just another form of transferring dollars, and dollars are still the commodity or the currency that is legal in America. But now, the point is, now we're almost completely moved away from the dollars.
Yeah, whatever. We're not almost completely, right? So it has nothing to do with anywhere near completely removed. Look, what it basically is, again, you're still going to have to move the money into your Bitcoin wallet. And your Bitcoin wallet, unlike a deposit in a bank, well, deposits in banks don't get you any interest anymore. But let's say interest rates do go back up to something normal. Yeah, you're not going to get any interest on your Bitcoin wallet, and you have no FDIC insurance. So those are two huge disadvantages to having any substantive amount of money in your Bitcoin wallet. Plus the fact that at any moment some company goes bankrupt or some whatever, and all of a sudden your Bitcoins are gone. I'm sorry, I just don't, this isn't exactly my vision of efficiency. And efficiency wouldn't be a bunch of traders, spiking the prices up and down and playing manipulative games. Millionaires buying millions of Bitcoins as speculation. What happens when they dump 1 million Bitcoins on the market? So again, this is, you want to play a game and call it playing a game, go ahead, but don't call this any kind of useful migration to the new paradigm. It's not. Just be more efficient to regulate banks and require banks to do transfers at their actual cost. So I should be able to just move money from my savings or checking account to another bank, and I should pay 4 cents.
And now we use plastic, paper, almost no paper anymore, just plastic. Wipe the card. So we are used to changing the way we buy and sell.
Right. Well, what does it have to do with the corruption of the dollar? Again, the dollar's not broken. When people decide to get a credit card, that doesn't mean the dollar is broken. That means people's behavior is broken. That means their psychology, their lottery ticket buying psychology is broken. It isn't a broken dollar. It's not the Fed's fault that people put it on the credit card.
So the point of Bitcoin is, and what they're trying to say is, right now, the Federal Reserve has a lock on currency. You cannot trade. I cannot go to a store and say, I want to buy that sweater and buy it with anything else. I cannot use any other thing. It has to.
Well, you can use coupons. You can certainly use stocks and bonds. You can certainly use other kinds of real value. But what's the point? Why would we want an economy that has even more opportunity for counterfeiting and fraud and all kinds of other crap? What would be the advantage of having 7-Eleven dollars and Google dollars? Why would we want those in the economy? And do we have some sort of expectation that people would pay their taxes in Google dollars? Come on.
It has to be $1 or a credit card that uses the dollar, etc. It has to use the Federal Reserve note. Good.
Yeah, and the whole point of that is to keep the Federal Reserve note relevant in the economy, because people do pay taxes with it, and we do issue bonds based on it, and all this other stuff. So yeah, you have to keep it relevant. What would be the national interest? Why would the Europeans not use the euro? There's advantage in having your people use your currency, not somebody else's currency. You can't see the sensible value in the fact that it would stabilize values if everybody's using it. That tends to stabilize something.
That's why we're trapped in this problem that he's going to talk about here in a second. About how you have to buy the Bitcoin with dollars, and then you have to sell the Bitcoin and get your dollars back. This has been a problem, and this is why the rest of the world has been forced to use the dollar to buy oil, the petrodollar they call it. And now that's been changing, and it's going to get worse. And it's, little by little, it's going to destroy the value of the dollar, because all those dollars...
Again, it's not going to destroy the dollar's value, it's going to destroy the bond's value. People are not going to buy the U.S. currency if they don't have excess dollars. What do people do with excess dollars? They buy bonds with them. So yes, if they aren't obligated to buy American currency, then they don't have to worry about buying American bonds, essentially. So that's the value in it. But I don't think it really has any real, I don't think it matters. If you put it all on a chart, I don't think it really matters, frankly.
That they've been holding out there are going to come flooding back into our market. They're going to sell them back.
Well, again, they don't have them, so there's only $1 trillion in circulation. I'll just keep saying it. The rest of the paper has some. The rest of the paper doesn't have U.S. government on it, except for the bond paper. Okay, but everybody knows a bond is different than cash. That's why it's called a bond and not called cash.
The Federal Reserve would just hold on to them. But if I could go down to the store with my Bitcoin and buy, my groceries with the Bitcoin. Now, of course, the Bitcoin's in a value, and but the coin itself could have, because it's digital, it could have the ability to add and take away value.
Right. Well, like I said, we could have that right now. People could have a bank card and be charged the real fee rather than the excessive fee. So again, if we just regulate to be charged real fees for the transfer, then we wouldn't have this problem. But the banks are obviously making some free money, so to speak, subsidizing other elements of their banking system by making money off of this nonsense, where the software automatically does something and they're collecting a fee for it, even though it didn't cost them more than 4 milliwatts of electricity.
Just like you do with a credit card, and it would have no connection to the dollar.
Well, again, just like you do with a credit card, and when you do that with a credit card, there's a huge fee that has to be paid for the transfer, and that's the whole problem, is the fees are excessive.
If I could if I could have any other kind of currency that people accept, because that's really what it is. It's what people believe was going to hold value. Let me take this little side road real quick. I was in South America, in Argentina, back in the 80s, and I saw the value of the peso drop by, it was 1,000% inflation a year, every year. So when you went to buy something for 100 pesos this year, next year the same item would be, it's 100 pesos this year, next year it's 1,000, the year after that it's 10,000. So you can imagine this could happen with the dollar. This is exactly what they did. All they were doing was getting rid of their debt. But
yeah, and again, the point is you're saying that that's already happening. It isn't already happening. Now, it may have to happen, again, because the government is so overextended. We have sold off everything to the rich. They own everything. And eventually, if we're going to pay back all these IOUs, we're not going to have the money. We don't have workers to do enough gulag work to pay the bill. So yeah, if something happens and people want real dollars out of the bank, if they're going to need the FDIC insurance is now insuring $6 trillion in deposits, and there's $30 billion in the FDIC insurance fund. So obviously that $30 billion isn't going to cover $6 trillion in insured assets. So if things start going south, where are they going to get the money? And the obvious answer is they're going to have to print it.
by raising, getting rid of the value of their bills. So what the store owners would do, the law required them to deal only in pesos. They couldn't use dollars. But dollars were the most stable currency at the time. So what they would do is immediately at the end of the day, they would run down to the exchange place and buy dollars, because their pesos were losing value so fast they didn't want to sleep on them. So, to them, the dollar was going up in value. And
right. Again, so is that what you were going to suggest would be the proper prescription for America when the crisis hits? It should, everybody should just buy euros? I mean, the problem is if we don't have the money, then obviously we have to pay some percentage of the debt back. 10 cents on the dollar or 25 cents on the dollar, and the only way to do that is to create some sort of inflation that destroys the value of the dollar. So we can pay back the whole debt, but we're paying it back in dollars that are only worth 1/10 of what the dollar was worth that we borrowed. But yeah, that's the only solution. So what good does this do anybody? Okay, these little gimmicky games you're talking about, well, people have to do this and people have to do that. Well, maybe people shouldn't have gotten in debt in the first place, and then they wouldn't have to do all that shit, would they?
to us, at that time, the dollar either maintained its value very well, or it was actually going up in value as compared to the rest of the world.
Well, compared to the rest of the world is kind of bullshit. I mean, obviously it goes up in value after it goes down in value compared to the rest of the world. Alright, but over time what the dollar does is diminish in value slightly over time. There's a little bit of inflation or devaluation built into the structure of the dollar. That's why there's $1 trillion in circulation, and 20 years ago there was 600,000, and then there was 500,000 and 400,000. Yeah, that's the idea. It could create a little bit of inflation so people don't hoard dollars, so they don't keep dollars as a commodity, because it's not a commodity, it's a transaction currency. It is intended to have no value in and of itself.
Because, you might not notice it in our country, but you would notice it in buying items. Like if you went down to the store, you'd notice, gee, that drill is a lot cheaper than it was a couple of years ago. And that computer, wow, technology has gone down, because almost everything that we buy now is made in China or Japan or some other country, usually a country that's cheaper in labor, like China. So my main point is, look, if you're gonna argue that the Bitcoin isn't as good as the dollar, then you have to put them both on the same footing and say, the United States has to legalize the use of Bitcoin so that I can.
Yeah, again, so why should the United States government do that? Why should they legalize some currency you're going to transfer stuff into electronically to electronically turn it back into a bank account? Why don't they just legalize transferring money from one bank to another bank at the real cost? The only reason why you want to put everything into some other currency is because you want to hide your money. That's all. You don't want to pay taxes. You want to hide your income or hide your benefits or hide your assets in some place that you think is away from. And yeah, that's like having Swiss bank accounts or something. Why should we as Americans accept people taking our value and putting it in a bank in some foreign country? Why should everybody say that's a great idea? Fuck you. That's what they should say.
Go and buy my items with the Bitcoin. I don't have to transfer it. There should be no transfer. And eventually the dollar will be scaling based on what the Bitcoin is. The Bitcoin,
again, the dollar, I don't know how to say this, how many times I have to say this. It's only $1 trillion of currency in circulation, and most banking never even goes near a dollar. It's just transferring bits of value. Bits in one bank go to the bits in the other bank. That's all. There's no dollar involved in any of that. There's no paper dollar going back and forth. None of that's happening. So we already have the system now. We just don't have the infrastructure, and Bitcoin doesn't create the infrastructure. It creates this farce of an infrastructure where we create a commodity, a fake commodity, something not made out of gold, and say, let's all buy the fake gold. Let's buy the fool's gold and pretend it's a commodity. And it's nothing. You're too stupid. You don't get it. Transactions are not the same as commodities. It's simple.
Because the dollar is the one that's constantly crashing. It's constantly going down. And right now it's been going down majorly. And the only time that it really hurts us is during these crashes, these busts and booms. It hurts us. But that's the time that it happens. So, during good times, everything's wonderful. The dollar's flying high, everybody's happy, your value of your house is up, everything's good. Then when the crash comes down, the value of your house goes down, suddenly you're underwater. This all happens overnight. And who did?
Your argument is kind of backwards, right? I mean, if the dollar goes down, the value of your house goes up. But whatever, there's no point in arguing with you. The hard assets get more valuable as currency gets less valuable. So that doesn't really make any sense either. But again, there's nothing wrong with the dollar. There's something wrong with debt. Too much of it.
Yes. Who had the power to make all this happen? The only people that regulate the value of the dollar, the Federal Reserve.
Well, again, see, I mean, you keep talking like they did something wrong in regulating the value of the dollar. The dollar is perfectly fine. There's $1 trillion of circulation. It works perfectly fine. The Fed did not suggest borrow money. Greenspan kept saying, every time he was asked, he would say, you got to quit borrowing money. You got to quit borrowing money. You got to quit borrowing money. It wasn't his idea to borrow money, jackass. So again, what's this finger pointed at? It was Ronald Reagan's idea to borrow money. It was George Bush's idea to borrow money. It was even Clinton's idea, but he actually had a couple of years where he didn't borrow money. But regardless, that's whose idea it was. It was the American people voted for, I don't want to pay any taxes, but I still want services. Well, you got what you deserved. A mountain of debt.
Deserved. All right.
I wouldn't. If I was an honest businessman, why would I want to deal in a current? I'd be back. And I'm not getting an honest value.
Like I said, we'd have to get rid of that.
It's just a gimmick. It's just a pyramid scheme.
The dollar is the pyramid scheme, and they forced it on us. So now we are stuck.
So again, where's your evidence of the dollar being a pyramid scheme? There are only $1 trillion in circulation. Again, that's all. There's $3.5 trillion in reserve digits in the reserve accounts that are owed to the banks. Those aren't dollars yet. They didn't just print the money. They put it in a reserve account. Where are all this printed money? Where is all this dollar pyramid scheme shit? Again, there's bonds. U.S. savings bonds. Now, it's a bit of a scheme for the United States government to buy its own bonds, which it's doing in this QE crap. I mean, obviously, you'll feel good while you're spending that money. That's like all credit card feel-good crap, right? Just keep spending it, and then, when the bill comes, when you have to resell that shit, okay, that's going to be a real problem. But again, who's defending that? And that policy, the policy of borrowing money, has absolutely nothing to do with the Fed. So you keep blaming the Fed as if it has ruined the dollar when it did nothing to ruin the dollar. And it is the preposterous debt that puts the dollar at jeopardy. Because if the economy does go down, there's going to be no way to pay the bills.
Stuck with it. We can't have any other currencies. Why can't I use the silver dollar or a coin?
Well, again, where in history has there been an example of a country where it said, yeah, anybody just make up your own currencies, have your own currencies all over the place, and that's how we'll have an economy? I mean, obviously they don't do that because it would be stupid. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's hard enough to keep one currency straight and honest. You're going to sit there and play with all, well, I got 1974 7-Eleven dollars. Are they still good? We're going to have to get magnifying glasses out and figure out, is that a real dollar? I mean, this doesn't make any sense. How can you have a bunch of people printing currency in their living rooms and call that rational? Man, this is just stupid. This is a stupid conversation. And quite obviously they haven't prohibited Bitcoin. They've just said, you know, when you turn into a currency, then it's going to get regulated. But that's for sure. But that's what I'm just saying. I would expect government to do that. I would expect government to protect me from some employer who's going to pay me in 7-Eleven dollars. I expect to get paid in U.S. dollars, not 7-Eleven dollars, not mining company dollars. You want to go back to those days? Yeah, those were your famous libertarian fun time days, right? Where the old mining camp would you know, they have you in your little hovel, and then they paid you in mining camp money that you could only spend in the mining camp store. Is that the world you want to live in, fuckhead? I mean, it's the world you deserve to have to go back to. I mean, we should have a national policy to build a time machine just so we could shove you libertarians into the crap hole you want to go back to.
Of some type. Why am I forced? What about, you know, in the old days when we ran low on dollars, what they would do is the dollar store would sell coupons for the store, and that way people, you know, they wouldn't sell it. They would use their own money, their own currency. They would create their own currency. That way people could come in and use that currency to buy items in their store.
Yeah, right, exactly. And they did that out of the goodness of their heart. Yeah, right. Like I said, we want a lot of that shit floating around. We want people paying other people and that crap. No, thank you very much.
And that's the way it worked. You know, and then when they needed, when the dollar store needed to pay somebody, you know, for goods or services, they could pay in those dollars as much as the other people were willing to take it. Because remember, in some cases, they didn't need the items that the store had. But
yeah, in some cases they didn't have any choice, did they either? So exactly. So look, I mean, this is a stupid conversation. I mean, this is just stupid. I just don't know what you people think. You think you can just manufacture everything in your kitchen or living room, so we can have cure for cancer, we can have, you know, more efficient automobiles. We just all build it in our own little yards, and everything will be worked out just right. And we'll all have our own little currency. You know, Gary bucks. This is just such a crock of shit.
At least they knew they could trade in those dollars, those bills, to somebody else that did go to that store.
Yeah, Confederate money worked out so
like
well.
I said, because it was bastard.
I mean, you know, everybody knows that the Confederate money worked out really well. Anyway, I'll be back.
It was ruined. Because it's good at neither.
It's it shouldn't be a commodity, and that's the truth about money. Money shouldn't be a commodity, but unfortunately, it is.
Yeah, okay, so you're just conceding my point. So all this huff and puff is for absolutely nothing. You're conceding the point. That if you're going to create a transfer currency, if you want to make transfers efficient, you don't do it by commoditizing the transfer currency. And that's exactly what they did. They turned it into something speculators are playing with rather than a functional transfer currency. So you just made my point for me, and yet you're going to argue as if I said something wrong. So fuck you. This is just bullshit.
Because when something has intrinsic value, then it's a commodity. And if it doesn't have intrinsic value, it's a fiat currency. It's just a piece of paper. Or just a...
Well, again, this whole fiat currency is the wrong way to put it, because they're not making the currency, okay? Like, in the past, the banks actually made the currency. Like, you go back 500 years ago, medieval times or something, okay? A bank was an institution where that you brought your gold in, and they created notes just to make it so people couldn't steal stuff, right? So people didn't have to walk around with gold that people could steal. So they made these little dollars, and they put little notes on them so people couldn't use them different ways. But anyway, they started creating bankers' notes and they became stable. People would find them useful. So the notes became more and more stable, more and more reliable as a currency. And the bankers would actually print more of it as they made loans. They would actually print more of it into the economy. And so that was a fiat currency in the sense they didn't have gold deposits backing up the extra money they were putting into the economy. So instead of waiting for the gold to come in before they made a note, they would loan a note based on no collateral, no gold in the pocket. And that's fiat, okay? The dollar isn't fiat. They haven't printed dollars like more dollar bills went into the economy with every loan. No, with every loan, the Fed gives the banks the cash in new bills. They give them the bills to loan to somebody if they need actual cash. In most of the cases, the loans don't even need actual cash, but it doesn't matter. And what takes place then is the bills come back to the Fed when they have to be cleaned or whatever, and then it goes right into the reserve accounts again. And then when the banks need cash, they request the money out of the reserve account, and it's given to them in cash, in greenbacks. But there is no creation of greenbacks in this process. When loans go out, there's not extra greenbacks in the economy. The greenbacks are their bankers' digits are created, not greenbacks. Notes, IOUs are created. The greenbacks come back. That's why there's only $1 trillion in circulation. So it's not a fiat currency. It's fiat banking. There's a difference.
Value on a blink on a computer screen. You know, if it's gold, I can get my coin. if the economy goes to hell in a handbasket, at least I've got that gold, as much as it's worth. Some people say it's worthless. Some people say it's worth what you can use it for. Some people like it for beauty.
It doesn't matter. The point is, in a desperate economy, it may not be worth much because everybody's going to be counterfeiting it. So everybody's not going to want to spend $500 to find out if the gold somebody just gave them is full of lead or full of some other element, some clever counterfeit. So again, that's not going to be too useful in a desperate economy as a real commodity. You're still going to need probably to make deals with each other based on exchanging pieces of paper, promissory notes saying, yes, let's make an exchange. I owe you 500 bales of wheat. You are going to let me borrow your horse for 4 weeks. But anyway, the bottom line is there's no, you're just, it's not fair to the circumstance to say the dollar's value has been ruined by fiatness, because it hasn't.
Whatever. Gold has been one of the most stable and excellent.
I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. The most stable over time? What do you mean? Gold was $40 an ounce or something in 1970. Where's the stability in that? It sounds kind of bubbly, not stably. It sounds like bubble. Jeez.
Holders of,
like oil or something. Oil was what, 10 years ago, $25 a barrel?
Value. And in the past, that's what the kings used. That's what people used throughout history. Rich people would store their value in gold because it would hold the value the best. I mean, we can see, and I've said this before.
Yeah, it's a rare element. That's right. So, yeah, but again, transaction currency versus commodity, they're not the same thing. And I don't personally think, like I said, why don't people still use gold in transactions? Is because yes, they don't have the time to sit there and figure out whether somebody's gold coin is real gold. So they don't accept it because they can't trust it.
The dollar's value crashes on purpose. They do it on purpose. They would like it to be about 4 or 5% inflation a year. They like that. They want.
That's a lie. So again, that's just a lie. Nobody likes that. Nobody wants 4 or 5% inflation a year, and obviously it's been deflation lately. So that's just bullshit. So why don't you just lie some more? I mean, really, what the fuck's the point of having a conversation when somebody's just going to lie, and that's just a lie? Value
go down. What we have saved, they don't like it. Us saving money. And then if you try to get interest rates that
It's another lie. All right. I mean, that's all you got is lies. What, they didn't want to pay us interest on our savings account, and so that's why they created deflation, and that's why they had to lower interest rates. I mean, they lowered interest rates because we're stuck with this idea that if an economy doesn't keep growing, it's had the other option is that it starts shrinking and nobody can accept any pain, and we certainly can't accept it when we're in debt. So they keep expecting the growth. And we know that's all it's about, though. And the only way you can stimulate the growth is you have to lower interest rates so you stimulate more borrowing, because it is borrowing that expands the economy. But again, that's not the Fed's policy. That's the overt political policy. People run on this crap and get elected.
equal or higher to that so you don't lose money, it's very difficult. I mean, go to a bank, go to get a CD that will give you a return that's equal to the inflation rate. It's not going to happen. But if you had Bitcoin and everybody likes the Bitcoin and there's no reason for it to be going down in value.
Oh, well, I mean, that's just such a let's just pretend, right? There's every reason for it to go down in value, because unlike gold, it has no intrinsic value. So once it starts crashing, there's no bottom it can't crash into, because it has nothing to stabilize its price. It has no guaranteed demand. No one's going to buy it for jewelry. No one's going to do it for this, do it for that. So yeah, there's no bottom it can't crash into. It can go all the way back to $1 frickin' dollar.
I could put Bitcoins anywhere I want. I'd be fine. And we would never have an issue of running low, because as the values come up, because more people are hoarding them, then more people would bring them out to use them. So this is what happened with gold.
Well, does that make any sense to you? Right? More people are hoarding them, but more people are bringing them out to use them. So they're hoarding them and using them. Hoarding makes people use them. I don't think so. You bubble the price and the price will crash. And again, if I was a reasonable retailer, why would I want my business ruined on stupid speculation? Yeah, it's all fun when it's all going up, but it's really not so much fun when you watch all of your value disappear in 2 days.
Gold values go down. People quit mining gold. They quit mining Bitcoins. But if you increase the value, then everybody's out there trying to get more. And when you get more, the value comes back down because there's more on the market. This is why gold has always worked so well.
Again, you keep comparing it to a commodity that has intrinsic social value. That's been, like you just said, it's been durable value for centuries. So Bitcoin has no such intrinsic value. It has zero intrinsic value. So again, it's just talk. A Barbie doll has more value, an old Barbie doll or a Babe Ruth card probably has more value than a Bitcoin intrinsically.
Yeah.
It's not value intrinsically, it's not wheat, it's not oil.
Okay, I'm probably making that point, but anyway, I'll come back.
So we have no money that has intrinsic value that you're talking about.
And because it's a speculator.
So we have no money that has intrinsic value. Yes, that's right. Cash has no intrinsic value. The ink's not worth anything. The paper, no, it's no intrinsic value. It's correct.
This playground, it's ruined as a transaction.
You're talking about the dollar too.
What people doing is
So talking about the dollar too. The dollar we just agreed has no intrinsic value, so there would be no incentive to hoard it.
speculating with your transaction currency.
That's what they do with the dollar.
There you go. So he's claiming that somebody's hoarding dollars, that somebody is actually going to sit there and play with the dollar, buy dollars. No, people don't really buy dollars. If they want to buy the dollar, they want to buy the value of the dollar, they buy U.S. bonds. Because the great advantage of buying a bond is you get free profit. Right? It's just as good as cash, right? Because the federal government has guaranteed it. So it's as good as cash. plus you get paid a profit for buying it. So if you're going to buy the US dollar and you have a choice between $2 bills, one bill pays no interest, one bill pays whatever, 2%. Which one are you going to buy? Oh, I guess the one you're going to buy is the one that's going to pay you a profit, a dividend. For free. You get extra. Duh. So that's the whole point. Don't you get it, jackass? That's the whole point of paying interest on bonds. Is you get people to buy the bonds, not the dollar. Get it? Ugh, stupid fuck.
It's the hoarding argument again. I mean, I don't want to have to keep going over this, but it isn't that complicated. There is only $1 trillion worth of actual money in circulation.
And that's just not true. The truth is, there's about 1.25 trillion physical bills at any...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Physical bills, that's right. Yeah, currency. Yeah, that's called currency.
Given time. And those bills are, you know, just because that's what is needed for cash to flow. There's only a little bit of... very few people even use cash anymore.
Well, that has nothing to do with the fact of how much cash is out there. The whole world, in the entire world, there's only $1 trillion of US dollars. Jackass. That's the point. The point is, obviously, that's been regulated somehow, hasn't it? If the banks were pumping the cash out, if new cash was just flowing out of the banks, there's no way there could only be $1 trillion. If the fucking people are borrowing $6 trillion a year from banks, $6 trillion a year are being borrowed from banks. If banks were pumping out new money all the time, then there would be $6 trillion more cash in the economy per year. Because how would it ever get out of the economy? Explain to me how the cash gets out of the economy if they're always putting more cash into the economy. Idiot.
How many bills there are in the economy is almost of no consequence. Because most people...
It's the fundamental consequence. Again, that's what fiat banking was in the past, was more bills were put into the economy. They actually printed more money. So as they made loans and they printed more money, the value would deflate. I mean, because there would be, one day there would be 50 of those bills, and the next day there'd be 100, and the next day there'd be 200. So the money was being devalued because they were printing more of it. So again, you can't call it a fiat currency when they are not printing it. Damn it.
Check flows into their account invisibly, and they spend it invisibly. All their bills are paid automatically.
It's not invisible. There's obviously a signed note. There's an IOU. You do not set up a bank account. You do not set up a loan agreement. You do not even have a credit card without signing some sort of agreement that now states IOU. That now puts your name on an IOU. Creates a new piece of paper that isn't the government. It isn't the US dollar. It's a piece of paper saying you owe. That is different.
You know, if you do have to make a payment that's not automatic, you know, you go online and you push the pay button, you know, and if you're absolutely in the 20th century, you have to write a check. But almost nobody takes cash down and pays their water bill. You know?
Again, and that has nothing to do with the value of the dollar. It has absolutely nothing to do with the value of the dollar. Those things are denominated in dollars. They are not dollars. The digits in the bank are not dollars. The digits in your PayPal account are not dollars. They're denominated IOUs in the bank. They're denominated in dollars. Because IBM stock says this is worth 20 US dollars, does that mean it's a US dollar? Because it's denominated in dollars? Because somebody says the price is worth that many dollars? Does that mean it is? I mean, these are notes, and the fact that a note says it's worth something, an I owe you $1,000, okay? If it's a note and it says I owe $1,000, it doesn't mean it is $1,000. It means I have to pay $1,000. It's a huge difference.
The bank can't have any other connection. The way it is now, the federal government's made it illegal for Joe to create a piece of paper that says, I owe you.
No, he hasn't. That's just a lie. There's no illegality about you signing a piece of paper saying I owe you. The restriction is against you taking that piece of paper and calling it currency and saying you can do transactions in our economy with it and pay your taxes in it. That you can't do.
100 tomatoes. And then I could keep that bill, I could put that in under my pillow and come back 20 years later and say, Bill, and Bill would give me 100 tomatoes. The government's currency doesn't do that for me, but they're making it illegal for me.
Well, you can do that. Like I said, anytime you want to. If you want to commoditize your wheat, or you want to say 100 bushels of wheat, or something. I mean, I guess what you don't want to do is say 50 286 computers, because I guess those won't be worth any money in 50 years, will they? So you'll get paid back crap. So I guess you got to be a little bit careful about what you commoditize in. But obviously, if you're not commoditizing in dollars, then it's not going to be relevant to the value of the dollar, relevant to its purchasing power. And its purchasing power is basically decided by how much inflation there is in an economy and how tight or loose money policy has to be to try to control inflation. And once again, let me reiterate, there is only $1 trillion in circulation.
Because they want Bill to do what he's saying we're having to do with Bitcoin, and that is take his tomatoes and sell them to me for dollars, and then he's supposed to take those dollars and use them as a storage of value, which is a terrible storage of value, because we know
yeah, well, this has nothing to do with reality. Bitcoin, if you establish that Bitcoin is worth 20 tomatoes, okay, 20 years from now it might be worth a half of a tomato. So there's no point in saying, again, why do you want to if you establish your currency and you tie it to a commodity, then no matter what the commodity's price is going to decide your currency price. So that means that there's a famine, then all of a sudden the currency's worth 10 times as much as it used to be? That would be idiotic.
5% every year, more than many people make on their money.
Well, even this whole, even the whole word "make" on their money, you're in trouble right there.
So my argument would be for Bitcoin or for any currency that people have faith in.
Well, what people have faith in it? Again, don't try giving me none of that fucking shit. I mean, that's your business. You want to play, again, it's not what you're promising it to be. So in my opinion, it's just a scheme, because it's not going to do any of the things that it's being promised to be capable of. It's a shitty design. It won't be a good car. It's a lemon. It has lemon written all over it, and it's being demonstrated.
Because the truth is, we all gamble. We all take chances. If you go into the stock market, you can lose all your money in 15 minutes. It happens all the time, and it will continue to happen, because the people that are in the know where everything's moving. They know how to get around.
Yeah, and right. People who are in the barely know enough to diversify. It's like one of the simplest ways to protect yourself against those kinds of losses is just do a little diversification.
And the people that aren't in the know get torn up. So then what happens? Then the government or the people with their taxes come and bail out these people that come crashing down with food stamps and rent.
Oh, come on, yeah. They bail them out with food stamps. So now we're bailing out welfare people who lost their money in the stock market. Is that your theory now, that that's what's driving the country down? $2 trillion in Iraq, now that's no problem. But yeah, we spent 50 cents on that guy who lost all his money in the stock market and is now on welfare for a week. I mean, this, how silly is your argument going to get? The fact that we bailed out the rich was bullshit. That's for damn sure. And that's exactly what we did. We bailed out the stock market. And it wasn't the Republic. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't the progressives who voted for that. I'm sure it was the sellout Democrats, the Obamacrats, and the Republicans who made that deal.
Distance, etc., etc. Well, my point is, if the government never got involved in the money issue, or if the money that the government offers is just an option, like if I can go, I go and say I want dollars because I trust dollars, because I believe in my government, then that's great. That's competition.
Yeah. Well, again, I just don't know what you're envisioning here. Again, why would I want to live in a world where I'm trading a bunch of monopoly money? I mean, absolute crap. Where everybody's showing up with a different kind of currency of who knows what kind of reliability. Again, even gold. We can't even have transactions in gold because what am I supposed to do? I got to get some metallurgy. I got to learn metallurgy so I can sit here in the next 2 minutes and figure out whether there's some hope that this gold is actually real gold all the way through. That I'm taking something that's supposed to be valued for $1,000 and it might only be worth $50. I mean, shit.
And then, or I can say, you know what? I really don't trust my government right now. I think that they're spending way more than they're taking in, and any
right, and that has absolutely nothing to do with the dollar. That has everything to do with stocks and bonds. It has everything to do with paying interest to rich people to loan money. It has to do with the right to usury. That's what you're for. It's not what I'm for.
Company that would spend 40% more than they take in every year can't live for long. So why would I be putting my money in that?
Well, again, it's who's asking you to put your money in it? It's a transaction currency. Who's asking you to buy dollars? Who's asking you to hold dollars? No one. Again, you have no obligation to do that. I mean, again, you should have an obligation as an American to pay your taxes in the currency of the country. Is that too onerous for you?
Right? I'd be buying Joe's tomato pads. I'd be doing whatever, I'd be buying stuff that I need. I'd be getting connections with all my suppliers and getting long-term contracts so that I have my food and all my stuff. I don't have to worry about price increases because I've already got my connection. If I need wheat, I got Bill and Bill's farm.
Yeah, whatever. That's your trust network, okay? So yeah, you got some guy you can trust. Okay, for an IOU, he owes you 1,000 bushels of wheat. Well, how do you know he's not deficit spending? How do you know he's not already overdrawn? How do you know he hasn't already sold that bale of wheat to 4 other people?
He's got all this wheat, and I am, I've got a connection with him. So when I spend, I can buy wheat from him in several ways. Maybe I'm a mechanic, and Bill's got to have a mechanic that does all of his tractors. So my contact with Bill, and my contract is that I'll take care of his tractors. He makes sure that I have all the wheat I need.
Right, and that's why people do the exchanges in dollars, because it's guaranteed contract money. That's right. You pay your end of the contract, and then you don't have to worry about him dying or fucking up or doing something else because you're going to get your payment. You're paid in advance. You're paid for the work, so you don't have to wait for him to show up to build your house. You just wait for him to show up, and then you pay him. So yeah, you get your thing, you pay for it, and then when you do your thing for him, he pays you. And that's the whole point of having the transaction currency, is to make the contract to guarantee the contract. Idiot. Oh, god damn.
It's a fair deal. The problem is, federal government says, no, because we can't tax that. We got to tax it.
You can do all that shit right now, so that you're just lying, okay? You can barter right now and evade taxes, but obviously nobody wants to do that.